And more than halfway past the LPL for the spring split. Welcome back to week 6, day number 3, as we begin with JD and B5, and of course being at the home arena of Jingdong Gaming, which is over in Beijing. For JD, their stadium was one of the last to be built, but one of the freshest as well. They had their opening ceremony for this split to enter them back into the LPL for 2019. With V5 entering the arena, it is going to be intimidating, especially since the Beijing crowd will be behind JD. Welcome back. My name's Jake Derek Sozipenko, and this is Mr. Clement Chu, or not so Clement Chu, as Raz said the other day. And we're back again for the midweek shenanigans.
I really don't know where you guys are getting that from, but please just know me as Clement Chu, not Clement Chu.
Yeah, no, well, like, not the same thing apparently, but Clement, we're into the Wednesday. We've had a couple of interesting games yesterday if you missed out on the LPL.
Oh yeah, big headlines yesterday. Sino Dragons actually took down the favorites of TOP. Chang Hong, the standout player for me right there, showing some variety on that Kennen and gameplay pick.
On that side note as well, it wasn't that TOP weren't playing well. Sino Dragon were just that much better.
Ooh, that was definitely the surprising point about it. Just so much versatility and also taking Knight off his game of Assassins. I think that was the key point.
And although that matchup wasn't stock standard, the second one you could say was with how FPX are going.
Oh, FPX, they played this game so fast that when they finished game 1, TOP and Sino Dragons were still in the third match. Doinby, of course, leading his team to his 7th straight victory, and also using the Renekton with Essence Essence Reaver first. Very unique.
If you're tuning into the LPL for the first time, by the way, Doinby is a mid laner, so that's Renekton mid that we saw for the very first time. That and more versatility in the LPL it's starting to stir up a little.
Yeah, Sino Dragons are the one really causing all the havoc at this point. Yep. 4 is the magic number if you want to be in the playoffs. And right now, teams like Royal Never Give Up and Team WE are sitting outside that magical line.
And because we're past that halfway point now, it's like every single match could be the difference between you getting in playoffs and you falling behind, which brings us to today, especially since JDG and V5 aren't where a lot of people thought they'd be.
Oh yeah, these two teams are still battling around for that last playoff spot. A lot of eyes on these two squads. V5, who haven't really seen a lot of, only 12 games played so far. This is their chance to make a stand.
Rogue Rose and Snake, the same thing. We'll head on over to Chongqing later in the night, but that'll be our second series. Our first one, as you mentioned, V5, we haven't really seen enough of them, and it's a shame because we have such unique champions on really both sides of the table.
I think the person you're talking about has to be Jinnu right here. They've given us the most unique matchups between Jinnu and Zoom. 3 unique matchups we've never seen. The Jax versus the Gnar, Singe versus Maokai, and Aurelia versus Jace. That was their previous matchups in 2018. Yep. And this time around, they're also bringing new things to the table. We've got the Riven on the side of Jinnu, and of course the Swain pick on the side of Zoom.
It's good to see that Jinnu's in a fresh team, but that doesn't mean that his style changes whatsoever. The Riven is the highlight here. 100% win rate, and that KDA just does not stop going up.
He has also 3 straight victories on the champion, 2nd in solo kills overall, doing his name justice. He is known as the immortal sword of the LPL. He is a Korean import, starting behind Marin in 2016 on the LGD squad, but he did start all of his professional career inside the LPL.
Now, you may call him the immortal sword. I agree with this. He's the Riven genius. He's the only one who's taken it into the top side, and if I was Ali, I'd be like, man, I never want to verse this guy again.
A really good tech piece coming out from him. Great matchup against the Camille. You can see right here using the key burst to start the second proc of the hook shot, effectively meaning that Camille does not have any escapes. It also does very well into tank champions like the Scion and the Urgot. The all-in potential is there to win those lanes.
It's almost like playing Mortal Kombat and, you know, you pick out Scorpion. It's not the get over here, it's stay right there. And Jinnu did that with pretty much anyone who got in his way.
Great team fights as well. He's able to close the distance and get into the backline. That's what I love about these AD champions at this point. You can see his build. He is going a bit tankier with the Black Cleaver and actually moving into the Death Stance later on.
I would also be excited to see if this Riven does come out in 9.4, especially with Spear Shojin that's come out as well. We know the changes around that. When you pop the ulti, it's like, hey, Riven is here to stay, and the 20% CDR as well. So there's new exciting changes that kind of enhance that player style of Jinnu. On the other side, though, he's not the only one with unique picks, as we said before. Zoom is still like the only Swain top we see.
Yeah, Swain is just so customizable at this point. It's great against matchups where you're going up against a tank. It really requires the enemy team to bring damage-dealing junglers to finish out the lane off.
Yep.
And it really fits with the teamfight brawling style that JD Gaming loves to run with.
I would also say that for Zoom, look, he's still on the same team. It's still the same lineup that you know and love for JDG. So you're going to see something like this. Zoom in the top lane, we talked about Flawless will be starting over Levi. Yagao in the mid lane to round out the Dumpling brothers. Bavoy into the bottom lane and Lumel as support.
So we're not going to see Int or Levi today, as you were mentioned. This has been kind of the more successful lineup so far from JD Gaming.
For V5 in the top lane, it's Jinu, Ben4 in the jungle, Korn. You should all know and love in the mid lane. Y4 and Lane into the support. Now, fun fact for you, Clement, Y4 is one of the few players in the AD carry position, at least, to have a quadra kill.
Ooh, that's interesting. A really spicy lineup for V5. You really can't see them as the evolution of 2018 LGD, both Jinu and Y4 coming over from that roster. And surprise, surprise, these guys actually had a pretty good record against JD Gaming, splitting the game score down straight even, 5-5.
I think we saw Yagao spill something on his keyboard, so hopefully that doesn't delay the games any further. The record is great here, but still midway point of the split, so we're looking mainly at, okay, how do they go up with their strength of schedule?
Oh, so V5 for me has had one of the easiest schedules so far. The only difficult team you'd say they've faced has been TOP. Then they've run around teams like Vici, like they actually lost to BLG, and then OMG. So for V5, they are one of our least explored teams so far. Only 12 games played, only one game more than RNG in the roster so far, and a pretty weak schedule for them overall. This is their time to really prove that they actually deserve to be in playoff contention.
Because JDG have had a pretty strong schedule, especially if, you know, we're still looking at that top lane matchup. And especially since, like, Zoom, you know, he has looked strong, especially against Invictus Gaming. We'll have a look and see what he thought about going up against Jinu.
因为和激闹选手交手过挺多次了，然后这名选手是非常擅长用开瑞型英雄的。因为交手挺多次了，我也有对阵他的经验，所以我相信还是没有问题的。
As you should going up against Jinu, and there's a bit of love there, a bit of mutual respect as well, Clement.
When these two players play, you know we're going all the way to the bottom of the rabbit hole at this point.
Yeah.
Like, the matchups really devolve into, it could go like Teemo Warwick or something, you know.
Yeah, right.
Jinu actually plays a lot of Quinn, too, so it's a really wonky matchup for both sides. We never really know what the matchup's going to be for the top laners between these two plays.
Yep.
And they are also the early game go-to options for both squads. If you look at Ben4's jungle proximity with the top lane, he ranked second. 14% of the time actually spent towards Jinu's lane. And you know who's number one? It's actually Levi with 15% of the jungle proximity towards the top side. So both of the junglers really like investing into the top side, and that's why we're highlighting this matchup.
It's also ironic as well because I think Flawless does have some of that proximity. He's definitely towards the top, especially how Zoom went, and it's just a bit of a flashback towards the Invictus Gaming game. Zoom demanded a lot of attention from IG, and that Swain was at the crux of it all in Game 3.
Yeah, this is just the Swain we were talking about. He's so difficult to really kill before the rest of the team rotates to the spot. And that's what Yagao and Flawless really like doing. That's why I feel Swain is such a strong pick for JD Gaming. It allows for that rotational game, and it's also a great team fight pick later on. Has that CC, has that crowd control, and that sustain to stay in the front lines.
It's very easy to take these mid-game fights as well, especially if you find Zoom with a lead, and if that lead continues, well, then this happens.
Oh, the Demon Flare is also a great threat. You see him standing on 5 stacks, just goading Jackie Love to step into the team fight. But Kaisa really can't find any perches. He's trying to dodge out on the CC. He knows Zoom's about to pop, and he's just like, you know what? I'm going to leave this team fight. I'm not going to do this.
And the annoying thing as well, if you don't play Swain, or if you don't go up against Swain regularly, because at the moment he's not the most popular top lane or mid lane pick, for that matter, Vladimir might do some healing, but Swain is consistent. You don't notice it. You're standing in the middle and you're like, he's healing up a lot. All right, this is going for a while. Like, it's consistent healing, and you kind of look past it and say, oh, it's just damage at that point. But it's not. It's more than that.
Yeah. Swain also has just a much better early game. I think a lot of times we see the Vladimir matchup where he goes up against something like the Urgot or the Scion, and the Vladimir actually gets pushed into lane. That's not the case with the Swain. The Swain can actually stand up to these matchups. He actually wins against the Scion almost from like level 5 onwards throughout the entire laning phase. So it's a much more solid and stockier build rather than something like the Vladimir, just have a bit more weaknesses early.
And the reason that the Vladimir is so relevant here as well, especially since we have seen other top liners like Flandre pick it up and a couple other mid laners as well dabble in it, is that this is going to be what looks like a carry matchup. This looks like it's going to be the full priority for both JDG and V5. So I like the option of maybe a Vladimir thrown in if it's not going to be the Riven in the first game or something like the Swain straight away, saving your pocket picks for maybe the second or third game. Well, then the Vladimir's an option. There's a lot of carries. Akali still in 9.2.
Oh boy, yeah, there's just so many possible things that they will select. But if we talk about the trend so far, JD Gaming, their go-to option for blue side, they like to draft on the blue side, and their go-to option is still going to be picking the Urgot.
Yep.
So I think that's going to be the key breaking point down in this matchup between Jinu and Zoom. Are JD Gaming going to say, you know what, I think Urgot's still good enough in the meta. He can play against anything. We're just going to slam the Urgot down and have Jinu challenge us on that Riven.
Yeah. I would also put forward that if it's not the Urgot, then maybe we start transitioning towards the mid lane. I know top is so spicy, Clone. We'll get back to it. Let me take you on a journey. Come this way with me, right?
I'll go with you.
Yeah,
I'll go with you.
Over this way, right? Bit of your gal, because with one dumpling brother, there's another.
Yes.
Now, Zoe at the moment has an exceptional good time in the LPL, Clement.
Ooh,
and your gal's a good Zoe.
It's really scary, but Zoe currently sitting at 82% win rate across all mid lanes. I really read this as a situation where the top tier of the mid lane options have been nerfed. We're talking about Aurelia, we're talking about Akali and Aatrox. All of them have been hit by the nerf bat, and then Zoe was untouched, so she just automatically climbs.
And if you look at the patch notes as well that are going to be released in 9.5, they reverted the changes there, so Zoe is still great. And Clement, that's after 29 games as well. So China has the biggest win rate at the moment with this champion, and you can see why V5, as their third and final ban, say no. Before that, of course, the Xayah, which has similar priorities.
You definitely have to take out Yagao Zoe. He's probably our best Zoe player, I would say, on the same level as Knight, who actually has a career Zoe win rate of 90%.
What?
So those are your top Zoe players, and we're going to see JD Gaming go for their support option that Luma has really been favoring after the Rakan nerfs in the Galio.
And we do say that now, especially since Galio has just been sitting support. We've lost the priority of Galio mid and transitioned it elsewhere, which is why I love JDG putting their star support on something so engaging so early on. V5, their response is to stop the engage and make lane a bit of priority with the Jason. Offering something over, maybe safety. It's going to be the Alistar in the end.
Alistar is still a very high priority champion. You can pick it with alongside a scaling AD carry like the Kai'Sa, which is still on board. So they're throwing some more questions to JD Gaming. And for the Jace pick, this is actually a flex between Jinu and Korn. Both players can play it. It's a very strong solo lane option.
Remember, we talked about niche picks in the top lane, so the Jace would fit nicely there. JDG, another niche pick that could still go to Zoom. The Ryze has been such a good combo with the Galio too.
We've seen some smart plays where you can actually send the Realm Warp in and have that Galio multi-man taunt.
Oh, yeah.
JD Gaming, they're trying to answer this potential Kai'Sa. They're just going to take it away from V5 before Y4 can get his hands on it.
And remember that the Xayah is banned away, which, Clement, has been the response to many of these Kai'Sa picks in laning phase. I believe it was only iBoy and Uzi who actually failed to stop it, so there is safety there for B-Boy in the bottom lane.
Ooh, but Y4 is going to go back to something he really liked back in 2018. Flashing the Varus pick. We've been seeing more and more of this champion come up. Great lane pushing potential, but he's going to go for the solo flashy option in the Vayne instead.
LPL Vayne. No other region has picked it as much as we have, Clement. This is why I say to people, you should watch the LPL more. We have Vayne, we have Renekton, we have Swain, we have Riven.
We have a lot of games and a lot of players that are willing to show off. So far, Uchi has been our go-to Vayne player.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit worried about this pick. It isn't punished by the Kai'Sa, so it's fine in lane, but come team fights, Ryze and Galio are not necessarily the champions you want to be looking at. And JD Gaming here showing some respect for Jinu.
But remember that Vayne can be flexed to the mid lane, which we've also seen in the LPL. Another reason to follow along, but getting rid of some of those niche picks once again. JDG opt out of the Riven matchup and the Aurelia, whereas Flawless is being strangled with his champion pool. No Lee Sin for Flawless means he might have to opt for something a little bit safer.
The Aurelia pick really reminds me that Rise is also a flex pick for JD Gaming. They can play it both top and mid, so they're very, very open in terms of the matchup. It does look like they will be scaling later, though. Both of these options in Kai'Sa and Rise are looking for the post-30 team fight.
I'd say as well, to add to that, something a little bit more stable like the Urgot would fit nicely in, but it just still doesn't give us an idea of where everything's going. You just say, probably Galio support if Rise is not going. Yeah, he's probably going somewhere in the top or mid. It's like, oh, he might go AD carry Clement, put the Kai'Sa mid.
So JD Gaming, I still feel like they need a good engage option to dig themselves out of holes if something does go wrong in the early game. Camille would be one. Remember, it's still 9.2, so still a very feasible jungler.
Yeah.
You can still stun against non-champion targets. Very important thing to note, this is not the live patch, so Camille still viable, and Camille Galio has been Invictus Gaming's favorite mid-game engage comp as well.
It has been such a stock standard. V5 did flash the Cassiopeia, which is still open, surprising enough, but it has not had the greatest success in the LPL. So what do you know, Korn, assuming that this is his final pick, which the Syndra does confirm?
All right, so we have our matchups lined across the board. JD Gaming should be sending this Urgot, I would say, towards the, I actually prefer it towards the mid lane.
Yep.
The Rise versus Syndra matchup is not the one that you typically want to go into. Rise, a champion that has to walk up, has a lot of trouble against the Syndra picks. It is considered a counter. But this time around, they're saying, you know what, Rise against Jay is probably even worse.
Oh, well, Clement, last night we saw, as a comparative matchup, we saw Rise against LeBlanc, and Knight just won the matchup as LeBlanc. So if anything could happen in the mid lane, I think Yagao is more than capable of challenging the Syndra from Korn. But V5, it was a pretty standard pick and ban. From the same of JDG, we haven't seen those niche picks really come out. The Rise in the top lane fits into that category, but here it seems a bit more safer to kick off this series.
I would say V5 have a much stronger laning focus, and this is what we've been seeing from them. Topside focus, try to play through your solo lanes. And just a small note, Aatrox jungle actually has a 100% win rate in the LPL so far. Oh,
that's a lot of pressure to put on, and the last time we put that pressure on, it was a Renekton in the top lane with a 100% win rate after 9 games. And I believe it was JDG, it was Zoom, who I think lost the very first game of Renekton top. So hopefully that pressure doesn't apply to V5, especially since the jungle Aatrox has been so active early.
Yeah, jungle Aatrox, if you can couple that up with a bit of crowd control from the lanes, we've been seeing the LeBlanc and the Rise be the go-to ganking partners of the jungle pick. That really allows you to shut the lanes down very hard and really compensates for Aatrox's lack of initial crowd control. I wonder if they're going to be able to do that with the Syndra Scatter the Weak. Is Korn going to be able to land that crowd control and really shut Rise out from the later phases of the game?
We'll have to find out, because we've seen counter matchups work in the favor of the countered. It's the LPL where nothing is straightforward and everything is up for grabs. The halfway point well and truly passed here as we go into week 6, day number 3, and a matchup that cannot be missed in JDG taking on V5. You couldn't miss that. I thought we almost missed it, but you cannot miss the manager of JDG. The loudest and proudest manager in the whole of LPL. He made that clear very apparently last year.
Definitely there to impress his fans.
Of course. Clement,
leading the charge with that chant.
Zoom gets the first CS of the game. A lot of people would think that's game over, but it's definitely not. So it is going to be the safety of Yagao going into the Aftershock.
It's a very interesting build from Jinu. He's actually not going for the early pressure, but instead opting for Kleptomancy. So he's looking to play around his later power spikes and not just dominate the laning phase so hard.
He's very easy to get procs off to Zoom early. You do have the range advantage as the Jace.
We're seeing for Yagao taking the Aftershock. Pretty standard for the Rise these days. Also off into the extra AP with the rune changes.
We've definitely moved past the phase rush days of Rise, especially since it seems to be more towards those fights that we see in the mid-game more and more.
This lane should be pretty quiet earlier on. The big thing is that Vayne is not going to get punished by Kai'Sa in the matchup like she usually is against champions like Sivir or Ezreal. And V5 actually have a very good lane set up to gank here. The ability to do double wall stuns with the headbutt and the condemn is going to prevent JD Gaming from ever really pushing up.
It's not too difficult as well to coordinate, especially since Lei will be the one going in first. But jungle is going to be the priority here for the time being, as Scuttle was taken topside by V5 and Flawless opted into the bottom side, but now looking for fresh blood. Ben4 at the same level, but a good poor reward will spot him out. I don't think Flawless has actually seen that he was spotted. So he walks past the brushing because he doesn't check it. Jinu is aware.
Yeah, he doesn't know about this. This could go very wrong. You can see Ben4 already ticking up to level 3 at this point. Flawless still does not spot him, but he's under-leveled and in full enemy vision.
Should be pings going down, especially since Flawless is now coming into the lane. Shock blast onto Flawless. They bop him back. This is not good. Forces the flash out of Flawless here. The 2v2 in the top side of the map. It's now Zoom who's brought back in. Shredded down. The teleport coming through. JDG want to commit, but that teleport from Yagao is going to cost absolutely everything for the mid laner of JDG.
Very good Poro spotting everything out, coming out from Ben4. A good option to place it there. They did read that perhaps the jungle proximity stat was very, very heavy towards the top side.
You telling me they've done their research, Clement?
Yeah, they did.
No way. All right. But you're right. That Poro ward was crucial to that play. And it sets behind Flawless. He doesn't have the flash. And he's behind in the jungle.
Yeah, this is typical Flawless play. You know, you go for the early risks, see if you can snowball your lanes ahead, but if you don't, you also run into a lot of trouble. Now let's see if the scatter of the week can land.
It doesn't. Yagao just walks away casually. The chains do not lash him in either.
Good pathing taken by there. You always want to walk in a perpendicular fashion to the infernal chains. Takes you out of the pullback.
Would have been enough damage to probably burst a summoner out of Yagao at least. Means he holds onto his flash and Ben4 doesn't have to burn his. This is first blue buff of the game, by the way, and Ben4, what a nice guy.
Ooh, really wants to abuse that matchup. I like this play coming out from V5. They are a very lane-centric type of team composition. Neither the Jace or the Syndra is going to do much for you when it comes to those big team fights later on in the game. If it goes past 30 minutes, I really see Y4 as being the only one to hold a candle to what JD Gaming have in the roster.
Well, if Y4 have a decent enough laning phase, then it could be okay for V5, especially since Jinu and Korn will still be outputting damage and the CC will still be there from both of them. Hammerfall for Jace, of course. And as you can see there, that's what Scatter the Week's going to do. Korn does proc with Electrocute. Doesn't have ulti just yet, but it's a very good point raised. Ben4 hovering around the bottom side just in case Flawless wants to make an appearance into Y4's lane.
I like this punish coming in from B5. Ben4 knows he has the upper hand with the red buff and the pushing wave in towards the mid lane. That makes it a really good reason to hand your blue buff off early. If you can have that wave pushing and just play the 2v2 game.
Yep.
I've actually been really impressed with Ben4 this split overall. He actually is sitting at the highest first blood percentage for junglers right now at 71%. Ooh. So he's been doing a lot of work in the early game, and he's actually taking the starting position over someone more experienced like Pepper for V5.
I mean, there's still a bit of experience on Ben4, but we haven't seen him in a year. He's been inactive for that whole of 2017.
Yeah, definitely hasn't played as many starting games compared to Pepper, who's been bouncing around and actually was touted as one of the faces for the squad. You can see him in the intro video, but he's really taken over that spot.
Ben4, with his good performances, has been influencing a lot of the time towards Jinu, but this game seems a little bit different. Reacting to Flawless instead, and Yagao now, who are moving up towards the top side of that map. And Flawless will find the edge of the wall, forces the flash out of Jinu. Wasn't telegraphed there from B5. They had no idea. God, Yagao, what are you doing? You cheeky gremlin. Get back to your mid lane.
It's a really good shove and push coming in from Yagao. He already expended the teleport, but was still able to make that play. So very smart timing on using his backs. And also you can spot out the minion dematerializer. Yagao. Oh.
That was perfect timing again, though.
He knew that.
Well, hang on, Zoom. In the top side of the map, Jinu is starting to get the better of this trade. Now hitting level 6, which means level 3, 4, level 4 Q. probably wrong. No, it's level. I can't count. Doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
it's level 3. Level 3.
Thank you, Clement.
There you go.
You know.
Small issues.
I struggled with doing Ben 4 plus Y 4 the other week. Now struggling with quick maths. Another bit of quick maths here is if Ben 4 can calculate the damage onto Flawless, which is not needed here as he just pushes him back.
Yeah, definitely needs to run away. Already expended 2 parts of the Q onto the Wolves. And Zoom's actually going to have to walk all the way back. He did trade for his Ignite. That's the famous Urgot level 6 all-in that we've been seeing for a lot of the times. With the Unsealed Spellbook, you get that extra Summoner, you try to capitalize on it, but Jinu does avoid that power spike, even causes him to lose quite a bit of minions.
Yeah, in the end as well for Jinu. He's still got that small lead, but it ends up crashing in anyway, falls back onto the red buff, and the reason we're looking so heavily at these junglers, because usually gank-heavy or gank-centric junglers for the Aatrox and the Camille. And so far, we've only seen reactions to the top side of the map and quick power plays to get into lane and force a bit of a movement from their laners.
Yeah, nothing happening for V5 right now, and I feel like they are the team that is a little bit more pressured to get early action going. The Infernal Drake is going to be a great option for them.
Sorry, I had no clue what that interaction was. I mean, like, Infernal Jade was just like, do I pull him? Is he in it still? What's going on?
Yeah, good help there from Lei. Get that extra crowd control.
Has mobility boots now as well, so maybe expect Lei to be moving to this mid lane. Try and bop out Yagao in the same fashion.
Definitely could see that happening. Aatrox, for me, is one of the best jungler picks if you want to go into early team fights. With Aftershock and World Ender, he's actually super efficient as a tank. You don't need to worry about him becoming a fatality, and he can just frontline so well.
These Poro wards have done so much though, Clement.
It's
just spots
insane.
out Flawless the second time. I mean, attaboy, you know? Just so influential, taking it over something like the zombie wards.
I hope no Poros were harmed in that. That is a ghost Poro.
They go back into the bush.
Oh.
You know, that's where they want to spend eternity, Clement. That's all that matters. With us being handed over to Yagao. And Flawless knows that that definitely matters for his mid lane. And even Jinu was roaming down, so it's a bit of a chicken dance here. With V5 starting off with the chicken.
JD Gaming has done a very good job of anticipating the moves coming in from Korn. We've seen Korn try to set up for traps multiple times on the route towards the blue buff. But all of the times JD Gaming has been able to evade them.
Actually surprised as well because Yagao has just been walking away casually. See if we get that interaction again as Korn walks up. Scatter the Weak is available here. Korn doesn't land it again. Actually locks down Korn. Yagao is one going to take the fight with Aftershock in 3. 4 members mid. Flawless wants to take the advantage. Flashes onto the back of Korn. The all-in fight, but he's deleted. Doesn't even get to play the game. Lumao with the shield of Duran achieves nothing, and V5 get first blood.
That was really well timed by Korn. Hits the unleash power as soon as Camille hits the ground and just deletes him instantly. Also flashes out the emote to finish the entire combination.
Yeah.
Very entertaining right there.
Man, that was just instantaneous. Unfortunate. Flawless saw blood. He saw action. He said, finally, let's get into it. And the bottom lane sees the same thing. Killer Instinct onto Y4. We're just pressing the tempo here. JDG's bottom lane still have the advantage on Delay, but a big minion wave forces them back, and Bavoy can't chase any further, but Summoner's burnt there with the heal, flash, and ignite from lane Y4.
There's a really good tumble coming out from Y4. The ignite plus the Winds of War should have been able to take him out. And V5 are actually going to capitalize on the death of Flawless, take down this first Infernal.
Yep. It means that Rift Herald needs to be prioritized now for Flawless. He's in the top side of the map. Scuttlecrab will be there, but that is an Infernal. Nice and early for V5. And if they collapse like that again, oh boy, we're going to have a party.
That's kind of the biggest weakness of JD Gaming is that they never really expect other teams to beat them to the punch.
Yeah.
They were thinking, hey, we have this 3-man opportunity. We've just seen them use all of their cooldowns. Infernal Chains is down. Scatter the Weak is down. It's our golden chance. Let's go in. And all of a sudden, Jinu just walks out of the top rush, and you're like, maybe not.
Because remember, this is a team of leftovers, essentially. And I know that sounds harsh saying that, but Jinu's still a great top laner. Pen 4 comes back from IMA after a year break in 2018. We've got Korn in the mid lane, who we all should know went to Worlds, was on this Starhorn Royal roster. Y4 and Lei have been around the pack as well, so it's not like B5. They're on a new team, yes. but they're a new team with old blood.
A lot of veterans is what I would call them. They definitely should be a team that is held in higher regards to the likes of Sino Dragons or Rogue Warriors. These are players that have been on teams with actually a lot of victories. TOP, they were a playoff team, and LGD back in 2018 actually had a pretty strong showing alongside Yuki. Y4 was in, I would say, a renaissance of his career after stepping out of the RNG shadow, which is you're not going to do anything as an AD carry on that team.
Very true.
There's Uzi.
Like, are you better than Uzi? Are you asking a real question or not? It's good to see Y4 shine as well. That's what he's going to do on the Vayne this game if he can find himself ahead. And to be fair, going a decent laning phase against a Kai'Sa too is fantastic. Only a couple of summoners burnt from Y4. At the cost of being 10 CS ahead, that's how this lane's going. And JDG know how potent it is. They want to put a cap on it quickly.
Ooh, dicey situation for V5. They don't actually spot out Flawless. He is in the bush this entire time, and he also has the Herald on himself. So, good job on V5 there. They don't go out, they don't poke their heads out any more than they need to. They do avoid the camp.
I have to say, it feels like the Pixel Brush ward was the real hero there, Clement. JDG have got control wards all around it. It's like the Illuminati. It's just on that one bush. But they do not have control over the Pixel Brush and V5. One ward just saves the day for the bottom lane.
You know we're going to have to delete the VOD after you mentioned them?
Yeah, probably will. There it is. I think it is finally spot out by Scryer's Bloom, or whatever that weird plant is that somehow has the eye of Sauron in it.
Runeterra and Middle-earth, they're actually linked together.
They're actually the same thing. I don't know why people haven't made that connection before. Good scat of the week again. Yagao could have severely faced death there if Korn wanted to, but he won't because there's another fight going in the river. It's a knock up again. Luum out. This time wants to Justice punch in. A lot of damage onto Lei. Ignite is down. The fight continuing there. Infernal Chain doesn't come in, but the Void wants to ult in. This rookie AD carry takes a fight with the ultimate just piercing into Korn. It'll slow down, but no follow-up with a flash and the final hour burnt from Y4. This is great for JDG.
I don't think they can actually race Jinnu in the top side, though, so at least Jinnu is going to get something out of this. If it's one kill for first break gold and a teleport, I actually think V5 is fine with that trade.
Yeah, he got a lot of the turret plating earlier on as well, so there's a bit of gold, a bit of solo gold, rather, onto Jinnu, which makes that serrated Dirk. 1100 gold is a lot of money. JDG at least will trade with this bottom lane turret and the Rift Herald opening up their bottom lane to roam around and maybe go to the top or mid side.
Yeah, that's the real key part of the trade happening. JD Gaming, they force Y4 into a long lane. It's going to be very difficult for him to have impact on the map currently. So what we've seen is once the Rise gets map control, he can just drop ship into the side lanes, kind of shut down these long lanes, and I think V5 with an early game composition is going to start to feel the stranglehold. They're going to start finding it very difficult to farm past the river.
At least now, though, you can see that control off the river went to Jinnu, so he stole the blue buff away, which again slows down JDG. If they don't have this gold lead at 15 to 20 minutes, if they're still at a deficit against V5, and it makes it a lot harder to move into that mid to late game comfortably. There's a kill and a bounty onto Korn. If they can achieve that, if they can actually take down this Syndra, and that gold going to Yagao, then maybe some of those map movements you talked about, Clement, can be easily achieved.
V5, they're coming out with a good strategy. Look at the three-man ward clearing before Y4 even hits the river. They're playing super safe. Look at Y4 right now. He's just starting on the edge. He doesn't want to dip his toes in yet. He knows JD Gaming can't play a crazy style. But what V5 don't know is that the trap is actually sent top lane.
It's the double whammy. Jinnu uses the acceleration gate. He doesn't have the speed. Flawless is in. 1v3. How do you take it? Hero's entrance. Jinnu wants to turn around to Flawless. A good stopwatch there will save the jungler of JDG.
And this is exactly what we're talking about. This JD Gaming, once they open up the map up, it's so hard for you to find yourself past the river.
Yeah.
There's a lot of collapse that can come out of this team composition. Realm Warp and also the semi-global coming in from Hero's entrance can punish these lanes. So V5, they really need to prioritize who they want the farm on, and I think for now, they're pretty happy for it to go to Y4.
Yeah. The safety element of V5's composition, but just to echo that point a little bit more as top and bottom turret go down in a trade, you look at Jinnu and you say, all right, he's almost got his lethality item full set as well. Jinnu wants the farm. And it's a battle internally between, I want to push up, I want to clear this wave, I want more gold, but I don't know where these global ultimates are, or semi-global as you put it. And they could be anywhere across the map with a Camille. So it's so annoying, it's so punishing for V5, who are playing this very smartly and very carefully, to be punished no matter where they are.
And this is a macro aspect of the game that I feel like a lot of teams actually miss. It's not about how much immediate gold you get out of objective trades. A lot of the times it's about if opening up the map actually fits your composition.
Yeah.
And for opening up the map on JD side, it's absolutely great because they have more mobility tools. They can get around places faster.
They can get out as well if they get caught.
Yeah, exactly. And V5 are in this situation where they really need to pick their lanes. Their safe lane currently is still going to be their bot side. That's where most of their vision is centered around. But one of these carries is going to have to cut back on their own rations.
One of these carries is not like the other. Y4 is mid, Jinu is into the bottom side. Now, one carry we haven't forgotten about is Korn. That Oblivion Orb's picked up, and there's a lot of penetration there for his magic trick damage, so I wouldn't be surprised if Korn sets up a play around Yagao as they're doing now. But 4 members moving in late. Oh, that's mad cow.
I don't think he can get out in time.
Hang on, don't doubt Yagao. He flashes the knock up there. Lei will find the lockdown. Scatter the weak. Yagao unleash power and dead. Y4 secures it, and V5 finally make a play, but JDG feel like they're on the same pace.
Yeah, I don't think V5 actually wins out on that trade. They were so far behind on the minion wave. You could see Lei was walking several feet across, and they're actually going to try for an engage to equalize this.
You said they didn't win the play, and now they want to. They want to turn it into their favor. Zoom will face front into that shock blast acceleration gate. V5 will trade it off again. So although they're a step behind when they make the play, they're always getting these trade-offs that put them back in the driver's seat.
Yeah, I did not read that play correctly the entire way. V5, they do find themselves back into the fight. A really good collapse coming in from the left side. I like how they slunk towards the bottom side of the lane just to make sure that JD Gaming had to take the long route around.
This is the moment for JDG. If they do force these fights off the back of one of those objectives, look at the items, look at the power spikes, only Archangels. Zoom doesn't have 2 items, and getting caught out here is going to be big. As V5 going to commit a lot, double flash there, locked on down, Infernal Chains. Jinu chases up, hammers him away. And that's the first kill for Jinu.
Ooh, and Jinu's getting on the board big here. So much armor penetration on him already. Remember, he did go into the Kleptomancy, so a lot of these item spikes are being very accelerated. Compare that to Zoom. He's sitting on pretty much 1.5, and Jinu's already at the full 2 items. I also want to point out, he got really lucky with the early trades. He got 2 bags of gold within the first minion wave.
I mean, like we said, Clement, I mean, the outrange is there from Jinu. The Shock Blast is a great way to set up your Klepto. For Zoom, he's almost got that Righteous Glory, but almost is not enough at this stage. With Baron up, and now Infernal Drake as well at 1 minute 30. With these bottom side scuffles continuing to happen, you can see V5 getting further and further deeper in with vision.
V5, they don't necessarily have the best split pushing options on the map, but they do have a quite sizable gold lead and a Cloud Drake to really help with those rotations you were talking about. I actually feel like they're in a position where they can, if they can advance their warding and push it past the river for JD Gaming, they can sort of put that pressure back onto JD Gaming, even without the mobility, without the globals. They do have that instant kill threat that's going to make it very hard.
Wow, Flawless read this one very well, sir. Jinu go in, Killer Instinct in, and this is V5, immediately gone again. JDG turn it right back to flash on delay, Justice Punch. Here comes the Chemtrail again. Fear Beyond Death, Lei is back on the farm. And JDG get 2 quick picks and now force the objective further.
Ooh, that was such a beautiful play by JD Gaming. Double teleports used to get a 2-man catch.
All corners found the void. The Realm Warp's out. Unleashed power. He can't get out in time. V5 turn this back around. The mid-game power spike just being showed here. Infernal Chains ready to be used as Men4 in ulti form. Needs to survive here long enough. He will drop down. Wait for the ulti. They've waited long enough. Here comes V5 again, trying to find the re-engage, but Y4 free-firing with the final hour. Infernal Chains used again. V5 just need this fight to go long on enough for Y4 to get back in. The Scatter of the Week, it's such a long fight. Make it stop. Jinu follows up with Zoom. The flash forward, eventually the Vayne does give it over to Jinu, and V5 made that go longer than an opening ceremony to the Oscars.
And there's no teleports on JD Gaming. This is just a straight Baron take. They're not in position to even challenge. So JD Gaming, they actually have to trade back with the Infernal. They can't contest anymore.
Baron buff over to V5 again. Talk about accelerating that mid to, or early to mid rather. And this is how they do it. Baron over, gold lead as well. Infernal, a trade-off for JDG may be good, but only if they can get past that 30-minute mark.
Absolute disaster strikes for JD Gaming. It looked very good to start. Remember, they started this fight out as a 5v3 with the early catches. A great catch by Flawless right there. He actually just finds Jinu sitting in a brush, gets the first kill down almost immediately. And also, Lei is just caught out in this fight.
Are you ready, Clement? Are you going to be talking about this for the next minute and a half?
Yeah, this is going to be a long time. But here's the crucial play. Here's where Papa Corn is here to save it with his experience. A straight-up solo kill, hitting Bavoy in invisibility and making sure he can't get on the chopper.
Okay, well, you know what, Clement? A lot of the time when you're a Rise, you have Realm Warp available, you're like, get in, quick. And when someone doesn't make it, they go, why couldn't you do that under me, man? Like, why couldn't you done that a little bit earlier?
He tried. He didn't have his flash. I don't blame him. But sick catch from Korn.
It was.
Yeah, just catching the Kaisa right there, changing the entire course of the game.
It also adds this little element of, okay, the Syndra now has 2 items. There's a bit of damage on the mid lane and a couple of issues with the CC chain from V5. JDG just have to respect this Baron play at 23 minutes in the game. Gold is going to barrel out of hand, but JDG still edging on a fight, whether that's the right idea or not.
So a lot of disengage options for V5. Tons of knockbacks on their composition.
Remember, Zoom's not tanky enough just yet. That was a big burst of damage from the tumble on Y4. They'll back away after getting a bit of damage on the turret and to Zoom.
I want to see how JD Gaming can actually... Ooh.
Oh, boy. Yeah, right. Now, this is different from when Ning did that in the IG vs TOP series. They're not at an advantage, and they're not in a good position to waste stopwatches.
And Bavoy also did that in Vision of V5. If you look at that ward right in front of the Infernal, I think the worst thing is Bavoy might not even know that.
Yeah.
Bavoy might think that, okay, it's fine. Nobody saw that. Nobody saw that. Just continue on, keep cool, and carry on. But that's not the case. Korn definitely saw that.
Yeah. Okay, well, Bavoy, you know, will act like it happened. But on the inside, I'm sure you wish it didn't. Colonel has once again jumped on down to the red side, but the true victor of this game is not yet known. Again, doesn't matter if V5 have that gold lead. Yes, they have the Vayne, but... Right, first Rise, Kaiser, an Urgot, and a Galio Camille. Game isn't over until that Nexus falls down.
V5 just were able to accelerate the game way too fast. This was not supposed to happen. They were supposed to have this phase in the mid lane, in the mid game, where it was going to be hard for them to actually find the fights that they wanted. The map mobility for JD Gaming was supposed to lock them out, but that didn't happen. That didn't happen. JD Gaming, they served up their AD carry, and V5 picks up a 22-minute Baron with a composition that is very focused on the early game, at least in the top side of the map.
Yeah.
And they're just allowed to run away with it.
Again, was able to accelerate, like you said, but JDG putting a hold now as Killer Instinct again onto Jinu here, but he's dead already. JDG still getting really good picks here with their semi-global ults.
That's exactly what JD Gaming fans want to see at this point. Just catching out Jinu. This is actually the second time he was caught out.
Interesting realm walk from Yigao, I guess, you know. Cooldown's only like a minute. Fair enough.
We've been seeing Rise slowly creep back into the meta, just a little bit. It's great against LeBlanc, and...
Apparently.
Yeah.
You don't know what we're talking about. Last night, TOP, Sino Dragon, game 1 for night, was probably his best performance we've seen in a long time. No, probably not. Who knows? You can't say with that guy.
You really can. He's such an amazing prodigy of assassins.
If we look at game 1 and not game 2 and 3.
True. He did get an assassin there, so I'll counter back.
Okay.
But Rise finds his way back into the meta. Was one of the core picks in 2018. Xiaohu and Rookie, both of those guys had Rise as their best champion.
Yeah.
The thing about it is it can capitalize on map control so easily. We've seen so many dropships where people go straight for Dragon. Snake did it in their last match to bounce back against Fiji Gaming, and you could just steal games away if people are caught unaware.
That's very true, especially since it has the effect in this composition that it is going to be the machine gun Rise alongside the machine gun Kai'Sa, alongside an Urgot that won't die. So a lot of other damage threats that will allow Yagao to move freely in these fights.
I'm disappointed in you.
Why?
Because Urgot actually has a machine gun, and you failed to mention that.
Yeah, but
that's
I mean,
weird play-by-play.
No, but yeah, like he does damage, but you know, in comparison to a Rise and Kai'Sa, there's a lot more damage. I know there's a machine gun, but it's called Purge. It's called Purge, Clement. A very different thing. Not too surprised at the moment that the Urgot is sitting in the top lane while this is going on. Zoom does have the TP. V5 are going to silently steal away this dragon. Well, not a steal. They claimed it. They own it. It's theirs. That's the third elemental for V5. Another one's coming up. Ben4's like, when is it? Is it here? No, okay, I'm going back. Never mind.
V5 are at the point where Syndra can actually start split pushing against the Rise. Rise typically does take control of the matchup later on. It's very hard for you to actually burst him down.
Yep.
So he's a better split pusher in general, has the mobility to get out of sticky situations. But Korn, he's not afraid. He's going in with the cleanse. He says, you know, when I have the damage, I have the item lead, and a 600 gold bounty to really trade back. And JD Gaming, they're looking at ways that they can hold on to the Baron Pit. That's going to be their #1 objective.
Just respawn. There's a scuttle that's secured by JD, so that means there's only a control ward in the pit that they have to deal with. Able to push out the wave. V5 playing around that set vision, and Flawless just able to walk up. This is the reason why blue side has a bit of a higher win rate at the moment. Control around the Baron Pit comes a lot easier. Late is now going to turn that around. Yagal's already dead. Where did the Rise go? Not too sure. Zoom just looking for an escape method at this point. He flashes over the wall. Vavoy's already out of here as well. V5 coming into the choke. Luamau won't find the shield of Duran. Zoom's just going to die. Leave the top laner alone. Luamau again. Run for the hills. Y4. Oh, the Gwinsu's hurt so much. The Vayne finds a kill too. That's 3 dead for JDG.
Great ball movement coming in from Lei, and a 3-point shot from Jinu from the back court, basically, on the right-hand side, catching out Yagao. They're not even going to go for Baron. They're going to finish it now.
I mean, this could be so annoying because JDG had their win condition. They knew what they were doing, heading towards the Nexus. Clement, they're definitely trying to end here.
Yeah, look at Kai'Sa. Vavoy's not even back to defend. He didn't really anticipate V5 to go in so hard.
He's like, what's going on? But the Nexus is getting hit, and JDG have just been overtaken. What an early game from V5 to secure game 1.
And that's the game. Pre-30 minutes. An absolute shutdown coming in from V5. It all went downhill so fast in a blink of an eye.
But it was very calm from V5, playing to their strengths, and they knew their condition the whole time. They knew that the longer that game went on, the riskier it was for JDG in these fights, or rather for V5 themselves to win those fights.
Ooh, just crucial picks from Korn over and over again. He got Vavoy to start the Baron, and then in the mid lane, he found Yagao at the exact position, bursted through the Seraphs to take him out, and this was just... Yeah, this is just V5 playing to their... They were playing the pick better than JD Gaming's pick, even though they didn't have the composition for it.
And it was kind of unfortunate as well, considering that Jinu came online. Jinu was talked about in the death segment, or on, rather, and for Zoom, it was the Urgot. Yes, the Urgot is, you know, still very impactful, but we did not see the same level of carry potential that we saw from Jinu.
Definitely was the case here. I felt like JD Gaming, they didn't really sit tight. I think that's the biggest question. They made a lot of good plays where you could see why they drafted this composition.
There were some good picks there that were like, cool, find the pick. Let's force something, or let's just leave it at that and wait and see how we go.
Yeah, but V5 even better, always getting the counter pick as well to stop any momentum JD Gaming could find on the map, and I think the MVP has to go to Korn right there.
All right, well, we're not talking about MVPs just yet. We'll be back after this, and then we'll talk about MVPs before game number 2.